What is up, everybody? This is Chase, and welcome back to the Wellness Center podcast. Everyone, I am so grateful that you are tuning in today. Thank you so much for coming and joining me on another amazing journey of resilience, thriving, skills, lessons, all of the wonderful things that are taught on this, especially as we're destigmatizing mental health one episode at a time. Everyone, again, thank you so much. I am so eternally grateful for you. I'm so grateful for this journey. I hope everyone is having a great day. Right now, we're just wrapping up July. It's July 25th when we're filming this episode, and it is hot here in Utah. You know, we're in the 80 and 90-degree weather, so I'm really excited to be here in the studio where it's nice and cool. So I hope everyone's enjoying the heat as well. I hope everyone's getting outside wherever you're at and enjoying some water and some barbecues and all of that fun stuff. So everyone, as you guys are listening to this, we are getting closer to hitting that goal, right? Where my first goal is 200 subscribers on YouTube. We're currently at 198, so we only need two more. So if you're going to be one of those two, make sure to hit that, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that, smash that subscribe button so we can get the tribe to at least 200 subscribers. That would be huge for me. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, again, my goal is 10 5-star reviews. So if you could scroll down to the bottom, hit that 5-star review or write a review and just let us know how awesome this guest is going to be today. And if you've listened to past people and you haven't left the review yet, that's totally okay. Please make sure to go and leave that 5-star review so we can just get these lessons and skills out to everyone else who could benefit from my guests. Guys, I am so super excited for my guest today. Guys, she is an absolute rock star. Seriously, she has undergone so many trials and struggles and experiences in her life. She is thriving at this point, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have her on. So guys, without further ado, I'm just going to bring her on. I'm going to introduce her, and we're going to get her on here so we can have a truly epic conversation. So guys, my guest, she personally overcame childhood and adult trauma. She has survived domestic violence and raised 4 children as a single parent. She has turned hardship into strength by becoming a life coach that specializes in trauma recovery. She works with adults who have experienced trauma. She teaches healing strategies for thriving and healthier living. And her ultimate goal in life now, her mission, is to teach, inspire hope, and encourage healing. So without further ado, we have the amazing Claribel on the show.
It's gonna be a fine day today, I can see. It's gonna be a fine day today, I can see. It's gonna be a fine day today for you and me.
Claribel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Chase, for having me as a guest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am so grateful for your time. I know you're a really busy person, especially with your life coaching taking off. And I just can't really express enough gratitude for who you are as a person and your willingness to come on here and destigmatize mental health with me. So Claribel, if you could just give me a few cookie cutter answers as to who you are and what you're all about, that so I and the listeners can get to know you a little bit better, that'd be great.
Yes, so I started my journey as a life coach in 2023. So I started working with clients that suffer from trauma, domestic violence, or parents that need some parenting skills. So that's where I'm at this moment.
That's super cool. And your kids, how old are they now?
Oh, I don't want to say their age. They're young men. They are adults, young men,
Oh, okay.
and they
Awesome.
are parents themselves now. So yes.
Oh, you're a grandma then.
Oh yes.
Congratulations. So I've heard being a grandparent is so much better than being a parent. Is that true?
Yes, that absolutely is, because you get to spoil them and leave them with their parents.
I love it. And how many grandkids do you have?
7 now.
7. Wow.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Are there any more on the way? Any more planned? Or is
Actually, I'm sorry that I cut you up, but actually number 7 is on the way.
oh, okay. That's awesome. Congratulations. So you've got 6. That's super fun. So what kind of got you into, I know we talked about life coaching. What got you into being a life coach?
After working in the social services field for over 27 years,
Mhm.
I made a decision in 2021 to move to Florida and basically start working on my life coaching business.
Mhm.
And prior to that, I was already getting myself prepared. And
Oh, okay.
yes, and that's when I started life coaching.
Okay, that's super cool. Where were you at before you moved to Florida?
I was living in Connecticut,
Hmm.
and I was working with the homeless population, the substance abuse population,
Mhm.
and mental illness clients.
Oh, cool. Was it a government style job or was it more of just a private organization?
It was a nonprofit
Okay,
uh, through a big agency. I'm not supposed to name the agency now because I'm no longer work with them,
that's okay.
but it's a agency that is throughout the United States. But it was the only branch that actually focused on housing,
Oh, okay.
supportive housing for homeless individuals.
That's really cool. We had a client in the past or a guest on the show in the past named Terry DeArgan, where she has a nonprofit in Colorado that focuses on housing for inmates, right? And drug rehabilitation and mental health and that kind of stuff. So I think that's so cool.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
yeah, so that's coming up. So you did that for 23 years. And so why move to Florida of all places?
I love Florida.
Oh, yeah.
I've been here, I lived here before,
Okay.
and I decided if I ever was going to move out of Connecticut, Florida would be the place that I will move. I
Okay.
love the sunshine, I love the atmosphere, I love the people, and yes, it's really relaxing
Yeah.
because it's very fast paced.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
So do you live in like a big metropolitan area?
In Florida or in
Mhm.
Connecticut?
In Florida.
In Florida, it's a small, actually, Spring Hill is a very small town.
Oh, okay.
It's
Nice.
if about 45 minutes of Tampa.
Okay. Nice.
Mhm.
So you're more inland?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
more residential area.
That's super cool. And do any of your kids live in Florida as well, or is it just you down there right now?
I actually have two here and two in Connecticut.
There. So the two here are your favorite, right?
No, I don't let them think, then don't let them hear you say that.
Oh, I just
Um,
tease.
you know how it is. They'll say, "Oh, he's your favorite." No, he's your favorite. No, they're all my favorites, I will say. They all have different personality. That's, with children, they all have their own style, their own personality, their own attitude. Yeah. So I treat them, based on who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And are they all four boys?
Yes.
Oh, you're a tough mom. So you're
Yes, I
very tough.
survived that.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure that
Thank you.
wasn't the easiest experience, right? I've got one, so I've got two kids right now and a third on the way.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
our
nice.
first, thank you. Our first is a son, and I love him to death. He is a tough kid. He
Yes,
he
there are.
yes, he
Boys
is.
are tough.
And and I'm sure that becoming a tough person to be able to raise four kids, especially as a single parent, started way, way earlier than just when you had your first kid. So I would love to get in my first question with you, Miss Claribel. So
Mhm.
take us back to a really young Claribel. When were some of the first times that you struggled with your mental health?
Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Yeah.
And so when I was growing up, I dealt with a lot of setbacks, trauma, sickness, dysfunction from age 3 to 8. I was left with people that were not my family, and that created a void in my heart, and it made me vulnerable to bullying, trauma, and abuse throughout my life.
Mhm.
And so this triggered the start of a cycle of many life traumatic events in my life.
Mhm.
And as you know, there's evidence-based that, from birth to 3, any trauma affects the child, and if it's not properly addressed. So during this time that I was left with this family, I was given everything, but I was neglected emotionally and also neglected, because they didn't give me love. They were not my family. I couldn't expect them to be like, take the place of my parents.
Mhm.
Like I said, they gave me everything, but that understanding communication that you have with your children, I didn't get that. So I have no memories of them being affectionate or being supportive. I
Mhm.
don't blame them again because, they weren't my parents.
Mhm.
And I remember one occasion when I was 5 or 6 years old. I can't exactly remember the age, but I got a high fever that placed me in isolation. So that means cuarentena in Spanish, meaning 40 days. So I was so sick that I felt like I was going to die. So to this day, I don't know what I had. But all I know was how I was feeling. I was feeling so sick, isolated, and unloved.
Mhm.
And I desired for my parents to be there, take care of me, soothe me, but I was alone throughout the whole sickness.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think that started, how you say, perhaps, it started like a root in me because of that.
Mhm.
I was a very quiet kid. I shut down after that for a bit, and I became very independent,
Mhm.
and I comforted myself by singing, reading, and contact with nature. That was my outlet. So I was, doing things to comfort myself, in spite of going through all that. So
Mhm.
it started affecting me because I began to feel abandoned and rejected.
Mhm.
And there was another experience that I remember when I was 6 and 7, in which I placed a pillow over my face. And that I felt like I didn't want to exist, but I don't think that I exactly wanted to hurt myself, because my mind and my heart, there was no malice, but there was like a cry for help. So I was experiencing what I think was childhood depression because of those traumas, of me being in that environment. And also another trauma that happened that I don't want to give any details as of now. So again, like I was coping by going outside, being in nature, listening to music, singing. That was my outlet. So that's how I maintained my sanity when I was a child.
Mhm.
So when I was 8 years old, my father picked me up, and he had gotten visa for all of us.
Mhm.
I was living apart from my siblings, and we got reunited as a family. So he brought me to New York to be with my mother and my other siblings.
Mhm.
My other siblings, that which I didn't know three of them.
Mhm.
I met them when I was 8.
Okay.
So um, let me just take a breather.
Yeah, no, take your time. I know this is really hard, and this is very vulnerable of you, and I really appreciate your strength.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
I want to share my story. So from 8 to 15, I was still haunted by that experience of abandonment and rejection,
Mhm.
and SA abuse. I don't want to go into detail on that,
We don't
but
have
other
to.
traumatic events that affected my ability to make good decisions in my life.
Yeah.
So as a result, I became a teen bride at 16. I experienced homelessness at age 17 for 3 months. And my first marriage ended in divorce. Of course, I was a child.
Mhm.
And my second marriage was the most difficult one because it involved domestic violence and repeated infidelity.
Mhm.
So during my young adult life, I battled the brunt of the effects of all these traumatic events that I had survived.
Mhm.
And all throughout that, I was still working on myself. I was a single mother, raising children, going to school, and trying to better my life so I can support my children. It was not easy, but by the grace of God, He blessed me with those 4 amazing boys that we were talking about.
Mhm.
And so during those 14 years of domestic violence, during that marriage, my trauma resurfaced again due to the physical, the verbal, emotional, financial, and mental abuse.
Mhm.
So I did go get help for me and my children. But
Mhm.
as you know, domestic violence situations are very, very complex.
Yes.
So it triggered me to get PTSD due to the trauma and anxiety. So the anxiety came because of knowing when that person was going to lash out, or loud screams, verbal abuse, physical abuse. So I was placed on medication, both part for anxiety, but even that didn't help sometimes because when I knew that that person was going to be home, I got very anxious.
Yeah.
Some people can drain you out of your life, those type of relationship. We must understand that my trauma did not cause this man to mistreat me. I want to make that clear so individuals can understand. He had his own unresolved trauma, and he had witnessed domestic violence in his childhood. So I need to say that because there's a lot of misconception about domestic violence.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, please continue.
Yes, and the number one question that I was asked, because many people judge, and say, as if I was a fault for accepting it or staying too long. But then again, nobody deserves that punishment. They used to ask me, why did you stay? And I always told them that unless you walk in my shoes, you cannot understand.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
domestic violence, it's a concealed pattern of cycles, verbal, mental, physical, it could even be sexual, emotional, and spiritual abuse. And this creates a trauma bond. And I define that trauma bond as an emotional adhesive that makes it difficult for you to recognize that that's an abusive pattern. And when it starts, it becomes unpredictable, like those ups and downs, that roller coaster in the relationship that creates the high anxiety because you're not sure when it's going to strike. And it makes you feel like you're walking in eggshells. So afterward, it comes in like a cycle, like I said, it's like a pattern. So it comes in a cycle of waves alternating from verbal to physical, emotional to psychological manipulation. So the dynamic for domestic violence is not a thing that you can easily break free because it becomes so toxic that you are enmeshed with that back and forth. It's almost like, I would say it's almost like if you had an addiction, it keeps you like, but you don't understand and you don't know why you're staying. With periods of honeymoon phases, and you swear that this time the person is going to change, but there's no resolution. So that's my story in itself. There's quite a lot more, involved. The domestic violence situation was really, really a difficult situation for me, and it created that trauma. It brought back my childhood trauma of abandonment, so it kept me stuck to that relationship.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your story. Wow, it's one of those stories that you hear and your heart just breaks for you, right, Miss Claribel? You've been through so much, you've experienced so much stuff, and it just makes me feel like so full in my heart to know that you're thriving right now, that you're doing so good, that you found that freedom. A couple of questions had come up in my mind through your story that I'd love to ask you. And I want you to know too, that I want this to be a safe space for you. So if there's anything you don't feel like you can expand on, I just want you to be honest with me. Okay. Why were you abandoned at 3?
That's a very good question because I had the same question, to my parents.
Yeah.
Because one thing is if you explain to your child, okay, this is the reason that we're leaving you. This is the reason why you're staying with these people. But I guess, we have to think also about the culture that, I come from a different culture. And
what culture is that?
I come from Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So basically, like when the parents make a decision, it's the parents' decision and things like that. So basically, if you're not explain the reasons, you're going to feel some kind of way.
Right.
So that happened to me. I don't think my father, my mother did it like maliciously or anything like that. They were seeking to get our visas, so they came to work to the United States. And from what I gathered, the story that they gave me was that when I was 3 years old, I was a very smart individual, a very smart child. I was very talkative, and when they went to the embassy in Dominican Republic, the person that they gave me to work there.
Okay.
So basically, the person said, I'll take care of her. She's so smart. I'll invest in her school. And that's, the reason why they thought it was a good idea for
Gotcha.
me to stay.
So you had no idea who your caretaker was. It wasn't like a family member. It was just a random employee at the embassy.
It wasn't around, I can't say because I have to
Hmm.
protect my family and I have to protect myself, but we had to
Okay.
do with more of, I would say government.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that pretty common in the Dominican Republic, or is that like kind of a unique situation?
No, it's kind of common sometimes when the parents come to New York to work, they leave them with their
Okay.
aunt or their grandmother. But
Yeah.
because we were so many, I guess my parents, thought that, that was a good life for me.
Yeah.
Because, they were wealthy. They were wealthy, so
Okay. So I take
they
good care of
provided
you.
everything. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Um, and thank you for sharing. I was kind of
Mhm.
curious about that. I actually don't know much about the Dominican culture there, so I thank you for giving me some insight there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So fast forward quite a ways, you're 16, you said, right, is when you became a teen wife.
Yes,
Okay.
again, because I went through another trauma in my life that,
Yeah, and I know you don't want to talk about that, and that's
yes, I don't
that's
want to talk
total
about that.
totally okay.
Mhm.
With your four kids that you had, did any of them come from that first marriage, or did all four of them come from the?
Two came from my first marriage and two
Okay,
came from my second marriage.
okay, awesome. That's really cool. Um, and so I know you kind of go through a lot of that experience. There's a lot of trauma there. Divorce from the first husband, and then divorce from the second husband.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you get to this point in your life where you realize that there's some work that needs to be done in your head, right? And
Mhm.
I think that leads perfectly into my second question, which is your heroine's journey. This extreme moment, this pivotal trial that you had to go through that helped you develop skills to help you thrive. If you
Mhm.
could, would you please describe to us this heroine's journey that you had to undertake?
Yes, I will say that what precipitated the hero's journey was during my domestic violence journey. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not calling a journey, my domestic violence turmoil
Mhm.
that I experienced
Yeah.
because not only I had to protect myself, but I had to protect my children.
Hmm.
And even though made me relieve some of that trauma, I was able to get help for my kids and for myself
Hmm.
because I knew obviously that something was not right.
Right.
And I'm going to share a little bit as to why.
Okay.
Because during those 14 years that I was married, I was trying to be like the perfect wife. I
Hmm.
I was kind of like let's say feeling like I was at fault. Everything
Gotcha.
like, so I try to do my best on everything because that's the whole dynamic of domestic violence. No matter how independent the person is, no matter how professional the person is, no matter how wealthy the person is, if they're in a domestic violence situation, the person will make them feel this big.
Mm.
And I was internalizing, that's the word I was looking. I was internalizing that person's rejection on top of the rejection that I had already suffered in, the trauma from my childhood, and compiling those two
Mhm.
in me feeling like I was not worthy. And it
Yeah.
affected kind of my self-esteem at that point.
Hmm.
And it was related to that because I was
Gotcha.
compiling both. But like I said, I started working on myself and I started, protecting my children as well because it is very dangerous when you leave this type of situations, when you leave a domestic violence situation. It's more dangerous like when if you stay in.
Yeah. Because I'm assuming the partner, the spouse, that's the abuser, there's kind of this sense of peace because he's in control, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It's a control factor. It's something dynamic that
Yeah.
the more they do it, like the gaslighting and all that, that starts working on you and they start working. It's almost like you had a puppet and they're moving you. That's the same way, because they make
Gotcha.
all the decision. If you make a decision, it's like a blowout, and it's
Hmm.
very a lot of people don't understand the dynamic, but it exists. There's professionals, there's judges. I have met a lot of professionals that have gone through it.
Hmm.
I have met a policewoman that have gone through it.
Okay.
And she was an armed officer, so because people will say, well,
Hmm.
um, yes, I have met them in all facets, that, professional and everything else, and people that were even a psychologist. So they have gone through that journey as well. So it's
Oh,
a
wow.
relationship dynamic that a lot of people are now learning about it, and learning that some of these individuals um, suffer from narcissism
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the behavior that they demonstrate and the way they manipulate and the way they gaslight. Um, they have to
Yeah.
do their own healing, and they have to want to heal.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, I started working on myself. I think my resiliency gave me that strength, like my
Yeah.
resiliency when I was a child, and then
Hmm.
my resiliency when as a young adult, to
Hmm.
not give up even during my most difficult uh, consequences that I was going through.
Hmm.
I learned, to protect myself. I learned to, because nobody was validating me. Nobody was, saying, hey, you're going through all this.
Hmm.
Um, you should never have gone through that or anything like that. So, I was looking for positive ways that I can counteract all of the negativity that was thrown at me at that time.
Yeah.
Um, but I have to say that God sent countless heroes to my life, and I call them human angels in human form, because
Yeah.
they provided me with encouragement. They were very gracious. They were very kind to me, and they gave me advice throughout my life.
I love
And
that.
yes, I have one example that when I was, still a child, when I had just come from Dominican Republic,
Hmm.
I explained that I was also bullied,
Hmm.
and I was in fourth grade, and this kid out of nowhere hits me with a chair right here.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, and for those just listening, she referenced right into the middle of her forehead. So,
Yes,
okay.
and he hit me with those old wooden chairs that back in the days, I'm not going to say
They
the
packed a punch.
yes. Oh no, they were all wood,
Yeah.
100% wood. They lasted forever. But he hit me with one of those chairs, and he
Mhm.
created like a big hematoma. I fainted, and
Wow.
yes, and it caused me issues. It caused me to daydream. It caused me problems with learning math. It was like I was in like a standstill
Hmm.
period. That's how I can describe it.
Yeah.
It was like a standstill for me,
Hmm.
because I had to recuperate from that injury. In my teacher, there was one teacher that she was meeting with me after school to make
Hmm.
sure that I relearn the math, that I relearn the reading. And she was so vested in me. And I believe
Yeah.
that was one of the angels that, that provided me with that guidance
Yeah.
as well.
Sounds
So
like,
that was one particular, I'm sorry, that cut you off.
no, you're good. Please continue.
One particular experience that I always remember, because
Yeah.
the teacher was so sweet, so caring, and she believed in me. She saw something in me, that she was trying to make me see as well.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing human angel, right?
Yes.
That was able to serve you and help you. So thank you. And thank you for sharing that wonderful journey of resilience that you've been through,
Mhm.
and some of the lessons that you taught. And I have so many questions for you. So
Yes.
you had mentioned, I know that two kids came from your first husband, two kids came from your second. Did you have full custody of your first two children after that first
Yes.
marriage? Okay.
Yes.
And what were some of the, like, in going into the second marriage, what were
Mhm.
some of the early signs? And I think this is so important because there are so many
Mhm.
people that are either starting to get into domestic or don't realize that they're in a domestic, abusive relationship, what are some of those early signs that you might not have noticed at the time, but you notice them now, that kind of alluded to the fact that this person was abusive and narcissistic?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked that question. That's a good question,
Thank you.
because it's very important to understand the dynamics.
Yes.
Um, like I said, I was still young when I met my second husband. I was 23.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about relationships or anything like that. But because of all the trauma that I have gone through in my life,
Mhm.
I thought it was like a knight in shining armor.
Mhm.
And the reason being is because they do act like that.
Yeah.
They act like they can give you the world when you first meet them. They act like they really into you, or they really want to help you, or they want to help you with your kids. Um, and they show this side that you go, oh my God, this is the guy that I want to marry, or this is the guy that I want to be with. He's so good, he's so nice,
Mhm.
he was working at that time, and he was trying to show me that, but
Yeah.
like I said, that whole dynamic when they first meet you,
Mhm.
it's like you're sold. You're sold.
Yeah.
Very attentive, very romantic. Um, and that's how I can explain it.
Yeah.
In Because of my trauma, because I hold myself accountable. I
Mhm.
don't want nobody saying, oh, she was just weak. No, it was nothing about weakness or anything like that. I held myself accountable. I made the
Yeah.
decision because, of course, I was believing that this person was going to give me a good life, or
Yeah.
that, you know, it was
Yeah,
going to turn
absolutely.
out very well, but it didn't. It
Mhm.
became very, 9 months into the relationship, that's when I saw the first sign.
What was that?
It was a very intensive situation.
Oh, okay.
It was a very intensive situation because that was the first time that he hit me, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and I never experienced something like that in my life. My dad never hit me.
Mhm.
My mom never hit me. Well, my mom did, but but not in a bad way. It's more like,
A
we
corrective
have
way.
discipline.
We got to give
Um,
moms grace. Moms do the best that they possibly
yes.
can.
um, but the way it happened, you know, that's when I saw there's something wrong.
Mhm.
I found a letter from some persons, I guess that he was involved with, and I
Mm,
brought it to his attention. And that's when things got really heated. And I
yeah.
saw this side. It was like, wow,
Mhm.
and the aggressiveness that he used towards me. I was literally sobbing like a child because, of course,
Yeah.
like I hit, but
Yeah. And were there any signs, those you said first 9 months, right? Were there any
mhm,
signs up until the 9 months that he
no,
was not, so he was the knight in shining
no,
armor
not
until you
no.
found that letter?
Hmm.
Gotcha. And I could tell that that was something that is still really heavy on your heart. Yeah, and that was hard for you to open up about. And I really appreciate your humanity and your willingness to open up to me, Claribel. That means the absolute world to me and everyone who listens, that you were willing to
Thank
share
you.
that. I think what you shared about how he stepped into that abuse, I think it's going to save lives and it's going to save people from a long time because they're going to recognize that as abusive because of you. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you for your strength.
Yes.
And so I know you go through this journey and you say that you weren't getting validated, you weren't receiving that. So you had to learn how to validate yourself. What
Hmm.
were some of the things that you were doing to validate yourself?
For one, I love to learn. Love books. I love to learn. So, I read a lot of self-help books,
Okay.
but I also put it into practice, continue going to therapy,
Okay.
working on myself, going to school.
Yeah.
I just didn't stop, and I went to school. I like to share this too, that the reason that I kept continuing going to school is because one, I love school. In the
Yeah.
field that I was in, social services, you have to continue getting more schooling so you'll be able to be competitive in the field
Yeah.
and get paid.
Hmm.
Because social services,
Hmm.
um, so basically, working on me, I worked on me because throughout the whole marriage, I was blaming me. I carried that shame. I carry that the feelings of rejection that, maybe I'm not a good mother, maybe I'm not a good wife, because
Hmm.
this person was telling me that. But and for many years, I stayed quiet and I didn't share my story like I'm sharing it now.
Yeah.
Again, because I wasn't fully validated, and
Yeah.
it was really hard to get out of the relationship. But there's only so much a person can take. You cannot continue your life being with a person that's abusive, going from person to persons in
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
that's not healthy. That God doesn't want us to live like that either.
Hmm.
So I learned that my faith in God helped me navigate those challenges of abandonment, rejection, the domestic violence,
Hmm.
because I knew that I needed to heal not only physically, mentally, but spiritually, because
Yes.
there's some strongholds attached to the trauma, especially when you go through domestic violence. It's like a kind of like a spiritual thing, because they almost can destroy your spirit.
Yeah.
And
I
I
can
was
imagine.
almost at risk of that.
Wow. And congratulations on realizing that taking care of yourself and investing in you was so incredibly important. I think that's absolutely huge. And again, congratulations on all of your resiliency. Holy cow, Claribel. I did not expect this awesome story to happen. Like I didn't know what to expect from you today, Miss Claribel, because I know we're just meeting for the first time. And wow, you brought it. You've been bringing it today. And I love that. And I just really appreciate you and everything you're bringing. I think there's a topic that we need to cover that is really, really important. Probably one of the most important topics that I've
Mhm,
ever covered on this show. And it's getting out of that domestic violence situation,
mhm.
right? I know you talked about that briefly, getting out, how dangerous it can be. I'm curious as to what was kind of the catalyst for you that made you realize that I need to leave? And what did you have to do?
Mhm.
What safety measures did you put in place to make sure that you and your kids were safe and are still safe to this day?
The Yeah, well, that's a good question. What I realized was that, and if I can share
Please.
uh, an experience. So I was getting divorced. My divorce was going to be over. My the person begged me again because of that whole dynamic. Oh my God, this time, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to be, I don't want to lose the kids. And a person shows up 2 weeks shy of me getting my divorce, shows up on a house demanding and telling me that this person was going to marry her. I have to laugh because it's kind of funny to me, but
So this random woman shows up to your
yes.
soon-to-be ex-husband, and she's saying, "I'm going to marry him."
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And because he had begged me prior to that, I had put the divorce, I stopped the divorce. So statute of limitations, they have to make you wait.
Yeah.
But then right after that, he was already involved with somebody else and he left with that person. But he still wanted to have me in control. So it took me about 3 years, 3 years and a half
Mhm.
to get my divorce and to be free.
Wow.
It was very costly because of the back and forth. I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I
And those
had
were
to
the
sell my
those were
house.
the
Yeah.
those were the threats he was issuing to you.
Yes,
Gotcha.
correct. They try to make you like back down because it's much easy. It's less, how you say, shameful for them if you stay as their wife. And he will tell me that too. He was telling me that it's better if you stay as my wife. She doesn't mind, and it's a really narcissistic way of thinking that you
Yeah.
can have two people and and control them both. But I wanted my freedom at that time. I have reached a point in my life that I realized that I needed my freedom. I needed to heal. And another thing was my kids. My kids were
Yes.
already youngsters, they were teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
and what they were seeing
Mm-hmm.
was not a good thing. And I remember one of the last situations, um, one of my child stood up to him, and that made me, realize
Mm-hmm.
that you can't stay in a situation. I cannot stay in a situation like this because, one of my kids are already young adults. They're going to react.
Yeah.
Um, so that was also a catalyst. So me, moving forward with getting, severing that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
as I say. I think maybe that answer.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Claribel. I really appreciate it. Your journey is truly a phenomenal journey, right? And it speaks so heavily to your resilience and your strength and your children's strength as well, because I know they went through this with you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. And I know we already talked about skills of investing in yourself and doing those things. So I think you answered that main question. Is there any other skills that you feel were important that you developed?
Yes.
What were those?
So very important. And forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiveness has been a priority in my life.
Yes.
I live by it because I realized that for me or anyone else to heal from any type of trauma or be able to overcome or any negative effects of
Mm.
it, we not only need, but must want to forgive those who wrong us and also forgive ourselves.
Yes.
This is like the key that will set anybody free.
Hmm.
Of course, like when you first get out of the situation, you experience anger, you experience all kinds of things,
Hmm.
but then you get to a point I go, and holding on to this, it's not making it any better. So
Right.
we have to let it go and we have to forgive. So when I share my story, it's not to demean the person, it's not to put
No.
the person down, but to show that there are relationship dynamics that are very toxic and very unhealthy. And I want to point that out, that in order for people to know what's the difference, like I
Hmm.
was young myself, I didn't have that guidance. I didn't know about relationship. I did not know about what was a healthy dynamic in relationship, but now I do. And another thing I learned was to have that self-compassion,
Mm.
that
Beautiful
it
skill.
wasn't my fault.
Hmm.
And again, when I did this, I reached a peace within me, knowing that forgiveness was that first step towards my healing.
Yeah.
And that towards also my freedom, because you
Hmm.
see, it's like you're kind of hold on to like a slave to this pain, this anger, and all of these things, the dynamics of the domestic violence.
Hmm.
But compassion has been the catalyst in aligning myself towards that path of healing.
I love that. And how have you practiced self-compassion? What are some of the actual like in the mud kind of skills that you use?
I can give you an example because it's important to know, like I gave up myself for my life. I gave to
Yes.
my children, raising children. I gave to that partner. I gave to my job.
Hmm.
Learning that you are important, your self-care is important,
Hmm.
taking care of you is important, and also realizing that the people that hurt us will never apologize. They will never,
Yeah.
confront her and say, "Hey, I'm sorry for what I did."
Hmm.
Um, so doing that has helped me in becoming more self-reliant, doing things for myself.
Yeah.
Before, if I did anything, you know how it is when you're a mother, well, you don't know, but but your wife may relate, that we're selfless, you know, when we have
Yes.
children, we're selfless. We're only thinking about those children. We're thinking about their upbringing. We're thinking about protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I had no training whatsoever, and you know, kids, of course, don't come with a manual.
No,
We
that'd be nice if they did, but you're right, they don't.
we learn through trials and errors. If I was a teenager, but I was able to, how you say, dedicate myself and be committed to raising those kids and giving them a good upbringing. I don't know
Yeah,
if that makes sense
it
in, you
does.
know,
That
but
makes total sense.
I gave so much of myself that I realize now that I have to give back to me. I have to rebuild myself into, you know, the person that I'm meant to be. And
I
that's,
love that.
yes.
I absolutely love that, Claribel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And looking back, and I'm so excited to hear your answer on this one. Looking back at everything you've been through, all of the struggles, all of the trauma, everything you've been through, what can you appreciate about the journey you've had to go through?
Well, that is an excellent question. If we don't appreciate the hardships and the those challenges that we go through, we don't learn from them,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't heal properly. So we have to be open and see that bigger picture of why it happened, what it caused me, what I learned, and how I can grow from it. And that's exactly what I did. I use it as stepping stones. So looking back, I appreciate all those hard lessons that I had to learn,
Mm-hmm.
by gaining and developing wisdom, strength, personal growth. I use all that adversity that I went through to fight harder as a single parent.
Love it.
That I'm going to protect my kids. My kids are not going to go through this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I went and obtained several university degrees, so that way I can be a role model also for them.
Yeah.
And working in the helping profession for 27 plus years, helping
Wow.
others. So part of healing is that part too, helping others. I used to wonder as to why, if I went through all this, I'm in a field that I'm working with people that I have to help that are going through worse things than me.
Yeah.
So I believe that God puts you in a place for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I learned that providing services to these individuals that I met, I learned that their stories were more complex and more traumatic than mine. And that made me appreciate, you know, my journey, and also be a better self-provider for them. Not over sympathize or anything like that. I always
Yeah.
kept good boundaries, you know, had empathy, but not over empathize.
Yeah.
So I learned the complexity of mental health, the
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, and other skills that, you know, helped guide me through my career,
Yeah.
working in the helping profession. And another thing I learned, because this is a good one, and I want to share, gratitude. I learned to appreciate my life, my
Mm-hmm.
experiences, and how I overcame those certain situations. Was expressing gratitude to God, like, okay, God, thank you for allowing me to survive those things.
Yeah.
So hardship made me a better person,
Mm-hmm.
because I learned to forgive. I learned to love myself more.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned also to be more compassionate about others and more compassionate about myself.
I love it. So powerful and so true. Thank you so much, Claribel. You have been by far one of my most favorite guests on the show. I love your
Thank
vulnerability
you.
and everything you're sharing. It's just so cool. So we're running out of time. So I'm going to
Mhm.
move to the next question really quick.
Yes.
So for those just getting into the realm of mental health, what
Mm.
advice do you have for those specific people?
I have a good suggestion, because I used to supervise interns in college, and I always used to coach them, to make sure that they're in the field because they really want to help people.
Yeah.
The first thing that I want to suggest is to seek to understand that people who experience many setbacks in life, like abuse, trauma, PTSD, mental health disorder, it is not their fault. Many experience very traumatic life circumstances, like or live in toxic, neglectful, or abusive environments. And some have a predisposition to mental illness, and others, it may have been brought on through an accident or to using substances. No matter what has happened or how they became affected by the mental illness, every person has the unique capability to heal, thrive, maintain, or to learn to live with their disability and manage it without being stigmatized.
I love it.
And I'm going to give an example if I have time.
Yeah, we do. Please.
Know that anyone can have depression. And I want to share an example that my pastor shared 3 Sundays ago, which I found very interesting. And he was talking about depression and how it's caused by unbalanced life through chemical imbalance, lifestyle imbalances, and spiritual imbalances. And he also shared that depression is not a malfunction of the mind. It's a signal that something is wrong in these areas. So mental illness does not determine the person's identity. And that just because someone deals or has dealt with depression, it does not mean that they are a depressed person. I believe this statement to be true because once you start to work on your healing journey, you start to thrive, you can start to become whole. And on the other hand, we also want them to know that there are some mental illnesses that will require intensive, ongoing, long-term treatment because they are caused by chemical imbalance or genetic predisposition. However, then we must remain positive and say that they can become healthier mentally and learn how to manage their symptoms, their treatments, and their triggers. So today, I want to encourage anyone who has had or has experienced hardship, domestic violence, trauma, rejection, or abandonment, is to first accept that it's not your fault. Like I said before, for many years, I too carry that blame and that shame of my experiences. But God showed me that that's not the way that I should go. You need to start to love yourself more so you can completely heal. And I must tell you that healing process, it's ongoing, and it requires a commitment to shed those layers of pain. And that doesn't mean that the person is still broken, but with the right support, and they can obtain the healing and they can learn how to thrive. So today, I stand here in awe, knowing and marveling on how God kept me throughout those years, and how he protected me in this situation that I thought I definitely would have been dead. But he gave me a clean slate. And this is the truth of how I became healed, along with the support of therapy and also life coaching, because I obtained after therapy, I obtained life coaching. So I'm here to encourage anyone that no matter how dark your life may feel, no matter what you've been through, no matter how painful the experience is, and no matter how many people have hurt you, take the first step today to start working on your healing and get connected with the support you need. And that's my encouragement.
Truly phenomenal, Claribel. Thank you so much for that call to action. I couldn't have said it more perfectly, and I don't feel like there's anything that needs to be added. So thank you so much, Claribel. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to celebrate you, shed some light on your humanity and your story. For those people that are really interested in coaching with you, hiring you, where can they find you?
Yes, so my website is Empower Global Coaching, and the email is EGC_2325 at empowerglobalcoaching.com.
Okay, perfect.
They can reach me there.
Okay, I'll make sure both that email and the website are in the description below. So guys, just make sure to go down and check out the description so you can take a look at Miss Claribel and every awesome thing she's doing. And Claribel, just one last time, I just want to say thank you so, so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
You're so welcome, and thank you for having me. Um, I have to say this has been an awesome experience because I feel like some people need to hear this.
Yeah.
They need to hear this type of, like you said, being vulnerable, that puts you on a spot. I was nervous at the beginning, but I said, no, I'm going to do this no matter what,
I love that.
because some people need to hear it.
Yeah, they do. And they did. And you absolutely knocked it out of the park, Miss Claribel. I can tell that you feel more relaxed. I know that I appreciate you so much as a human and your experience and your courage and your strength, like very aspiring to me. Not inspiring, aspiring. I want to be just like you when I grow up. So thank you so much. And for those that are listening up to this point, I want to thank you personally. And I know Claribel wants to thank you as well for your time committed and dedicated to hearing Claribel's story. Obviously, a truly phenomenal story, a truly amazing experience, and so many gold nuggets of truth. Guys, this is our goal to do this kind of stuff on a weekly basis. So if you loved Claribel just as much as I did on this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Please make sure to hit that follow button. Please make sure to leave a review for Miss Claribel. She deserves the praise. She deserves the 5 stars. She deserves the wonderful comments. So please make sure to leave them. And guys, as you listen to this, I know there's someone that you're thinking of that could use these lessons, right? Unfortunately, domestic violence is not an uncommon thing. So please share it with those people that you know that are experiencing these things. Or if you have a hinkling, please share it with them. Allow Claribel to be that voice and that beacon of truth to help them find the freedom and resiliency that every human deserves. Please share this. Please share this episode with them. Lastly, I want to thank you again for tuning into the Wellness Center podcast. It means the world to me that you support me in this journey and that you support our guests, right? Because they're for you too in this journey. Please tune into the next episode that we're going to be having coming out every single Friday. Again, if you're not a part of the tribe, I invite you to subscribe. Thank you so much for your time again. Claribel hopes that you guys have a great rest of your day, and we're going to see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.